Class is in session, hitting the books, college basketball edition of Hitting the Books for the first time this season, Friday, November the 8th. And we're going to try to do a college basketball show probably once per week until we get through the rest of the college football season. And then as we get out of football and we get fully into basketball in the new year, we'll definitely expand and we'll try to do 2-3 shows a week minimum. And expand the college basketball content here on the channel. But we figured we'd start with dip our toe in the water with a weekly show, usually on Fridays. And once we get into the new year too, Friday show will mostly be a weekend preview. I know Friday in the new year, there's going to be a small slate. We'll certainly talk about some of the bets we like for the small Friday slate. But once we get into the new year, the Friday slate will mostly be about Saturday, which will, of course, be a slammed college basketball card each and every week. So excited to be here and excited to talk college basketball. CMAC, it's hard to believe that how quickly college basketball arrived.
Yeah, it is here. It is back. And long days, long days, of course, with the other sports. I'll be right back. Let me fix these blinds. I think they're coming
No
through.
problem.
I'll be right back.
All right, CMAC going to get some better lighting and in his backdrop there in his studio, if you will. But excited to be here. And by the way, while we wait for CMAC to return, I just want to mention, very important, college football hitting the books. Mondays, you can watch the archived edition of the show from Monday this past week. And also we have individual game preview video clips posted on the page for many of the college football games that we talked about on the show back on Monday. So if you haven't checked that out again, go to the page, make sure you do that. Get you ready for the upcoming weekend here of college football. And like I said, we're going to do a college basketball show, at least for now, just once per week. Probably going to be on Fridays, like I said. And we will talk about the Friday card each show and also get you ready for the weekend. And depending on the size of the Friday card, there'll be some Fridays where it's a light card. We'll focus mostly on the Saturday slate. But that's not the case today. We have ourselves a huge Friday slate. Now, this isn't going to be the norm in college basketball, but early in the season, especially in November, the Friday card is usually bigger, and you do have some big matchups, some of the better, stronger college basketball programs going head-to-head. So with that in mind, we're just going to go through some of the absolute bigger marquee programs, the bigger marquee matchups, I guess you could say, in college basketball tonight on the card. And we will begin with Boston. This game, by the way, I want to make note of the start time so that everyone gets their bets gets their bets down in time. This game is at 6 p.m. Eastern time. This first game we're going to talk about, Boston College and VCU. We've got VCU 11-point favorites in this game. This is taking place at Alumni Hall. The total sitting at 40.5 across the board in this one. I think there's a class difference between these two teams. If you look at Boston College and if you look at this VCU Rams team, I think a VCU team that, in my opinion, has got the potential to really compete with the best teams in the Atlantic 10 this year. I think they're probably the team that I think is going to win it. Now, Dayton's in the mix. It's a conference where don't underestimate the likes of UMass and don't underestimate some of the higher ups in that conference. But I think when you look at the A10, VCU's got a great chance to win it. They're a very good basketball team up and down. Of course, Ryan Odom doing a nice job, young head coach, excellent offensively, very efficient because they wreak havoc too at the defensive end of the basketball court. And what I like is they've got Max Shulga, Zeb Jackson, Joe Abamasile, who can give them a little versatility as well. Lots to like about this VCU team. I don't know if Boston College is quite ready to deal with them this early in the season. So I laid the 10 with VCU. It's up to 11 now. Anything you like here, CMAC, with BC VCU?
Yeah, real quick with Boston College, I thought that last year they were solid. They've lost kind of a bunch to that team. They're going to have to rely on that guard, Donald Hand, pretty big. And he had a big game against Citadel. But for them in that game, they're going to struggle offensively. I mean, for only to score 69 and give up 60, it won't be easy, I don't think, early on. One thing with VCU, they're not at home. This is a neutral site game. They are the better team. They bring back a ton. Yeah, and they are one of the better teams in the A10 and will be at the top. This number is big. We'll see if you know how big they could win this game by like 20 plus. I don't think so, but I like the under better. Both these teams pretty slow half court teams here. VCU solid defense and in the 300s. I think 307 in pace last year. They can get BC to turn it over here. I think in this game. So even though it's dropped a little bit, to 142.5, I still think it's all right here. I think BC could hang around in this game. I lean the 11. I didn't bet it, but I think they might be able to hang around. We shall see if the shots can drop for them. Yeah,
exactly. Which they're going to need to, because I think when you look at VCU, that's maybe this could be one of their better offensive teams in quite some time. And will BC be able to come from behind if they fall down and have a big deficit? It's going to be the big question. All right, UMass and West Virginia. We've got the West Virginia Mountaineers 9.5-point home favorites, 153.5 being the total here in this game. I actually like the higher. Now, basically, West Virginia is an interesting team here because Darren DeVries was the former coach of Drake, took his kid with him, Tucker DeVries, the great player from Drake, with him to West Virginia as well. And that's a good building block for this program. And I agree. I think, in time, they're going to be pretty good this year. They're going to be one of those teams, I think, later in the season, you're going to be able to make some money with them in Big 12 play. But laying 9.5 with them against a very solid A10 team that had a dominant win in their first game of the season a couple days ago, coached by the veteran head coach Frank Martin, who's been around the block, seen it all. Kansas State with Jacob Pullen back in the day. Remember him in the NCAA tournament with those K-State teams, and South Carolina took him onto a deep run in the NCAA tournament. The guy can flat out coach. We know that. Now here he is at UMass. I liked what I saw from the Minutemen in that first game, and I'm very tempted to take the plus points here with them. I think we've got a competitive game. I know going into Morgantown there and that gym's not easy, but I think when you look at this situation here, UMass plus 9.5, I think this is a competitive game. Lean over the total as well. UMass is definitely going to play fast. That's been the way it's been with them since Frank Martin got there. You're going to see good pace, and I think both teams will be able to get a fair amount of points here in this game and be efficient offensively. So I like the over and I like the dog here. Anything here, CMAC, UMass, West Virginia?
Yeah, I like UMass in this game. You hit on it, though, for West Virginia. One of the worst, teams they've had in a very long time. I mean, it shows. Where were they, 9-19 last year? DeVries, he's going to make a difference. I mean, already in the first game against Robert Morris, which they looked pretty good, had 18 points. We'll see, because I still think this team isn't the best. He helps like shooting it from three. Will they be a better shooting team this year? Maybe. I just think Massachusetts has scores everywhere. They could fill the bucket. They're athletic. I kind of agree. I lean to this over. I think we are going to get up and down in this game. So if you get still right around 153.5, I think it could creep over. But I had to grab the 9.5 with UMass. We shall see if things kind of get turned around for West Virginia. I think later on the year, like you were talking about, they could really, get going and look a little different from how bad they were last year.
No doubt. All right, one of the big games of the night. This is on ESPN2, national television, North Carolina and Kansas. We got the Jayhawks at the Fog, 8-point home favorites for Fog Allen Fieldhouse, 160.5 the total in this game. I like this over. It's already bumped up. I think it's advantages offensively both ways. Kansas has a good balance. They can score from the outside, and they've got some inside resistance, but I don't think they're as deep or strong in the front court as they've been in the past, this Kansas team. And unfortunately, that's not where you want to be weak necessarily here against North Carolina, who often has size. But that being said, I think when you look at it, North Carolina is a good perimeter game. Kansas struggled against the three at times last year, so I think they can score from outside. And then on the flip side of things, too, I think North Carolina, and they can throw a lot at Kansas in terms of the front court and the size, and I think there'll be a lot of putbacks for them. So I think both these teams have pathways to score points. I mean, I lean to Kansas a little bit. It's just a question of, do you want to lay 8 here in this game against North Carolina. That's going to end up being the big question. But I do lean to the home favorite here. I like this total, though, even more. It's high at 160.5, but you should get pace as well. And I just think both teams are set up better to be stronger offensively here, and not only out of the gate this season, but in this particular matchup here as well. CMAC, obviously, it's a great matchup. What do you think here, North Carolina, Kansas?
Yeah, it is. Kansas, I mean, this team is pretty loaded, and maybe it takes a little, stress as the year even goes down for like guys. I thought the last few years, like Harris and Adams, maybe it don't have to do as much. They got Storr from Wisconsin, Mayo. He had 19 in that first game against Howard. And they have, I think right now, at least the bigs. Baycott's gone. Carolina's going to really rely on these guards. Of course, Davis, it's like his 14th year in college basketball.
Feels like it.
Yeah. Trimble, and a few others. They're going to live and die by the three. Yeah. And if they're hitting here, I think they keep it close. If they're not, I think it could be a long night. They are, of course, they're North Carolina, super athletic and stay in this game. But I thought that's a ton of points. I kind of leaned the other way. I didn't bet this. When these teams get together, though, they get up and down and can score at will. I just thought at 160 it was a little bit high, so I leaned to the under. And you know what? I kind of leaned Kansas just being at home here. I'd lean to lay the 7.5, 8. I get when I first looked at this, I'm like, especially someone that loves to take points and stuff for the most part, it's like, wow, yep. Look at North Carolina. But like I said, I think it's all about if their shots drop and if their defense really, can they play defense? Will they be, bang around strong enough on the glass in this game? If they do that, they'll be in it and they'll cover. If not, they lose, by 10 plus.
All right, next up, we've got, and I picked this game to put on the way we're going to do it with the Friday show is we're going to do like a handful of games, like 6 to 8 games of the more marquee variety. Yeah, and then we're going to just rip into best bets from both of us. We'll go with one singular best bet, but at the end, and then before that, we'll rip off a few games and sides and totals that we each like. That's because it's just obviously we can't do every game on the board. We would never do every game on the board when it comes to college basketball. But that's going to be the format. We'll go with about 8 to 10 games of the marquee variety. Then we'll give out the other sides and totals from the other games we like, and then we end with a best bet. That'll be the format of the show. Furman, Belmont. We've got Belmont 2.5-point home favorites, 159.5 the total. This is one of the best mid-major games tonight, without question. Furman is always one of the best teams in the SoCon, year in and year out. They're always a very good basketball team. Very fun to watch on offense. The ball movement, finding an open shot. They just do it the right way, Furman. That's why they've been one of the better offensive teams, without a doubt, in college basketball, certainly from the mid-major variety. And Belmont, the same thing. You're going to get lots of threes. You're going to get pace. Casey Alexander's been there now for a long time as the head coach. That's what you get from Belmont. Fun basketball game. I do think Furman lost a few pieces last year. They did. And I'm worried about them being ready to just be at their best early. So I think Belmont's a deserving favorite. I think Belmont's got the potential to make noise. Remember, they're in the Missouri Valley Conference now. This is their second year in that conference. I think they got the chance to be a bit of a sleeper in that MVC this year, in my opinion. I like them a little bit here. I don't love fading Furman when they're an underdog most of the time, but I think Belmont is going to find a way to win this game on their home court. I lean Belmont. I like this game over the total, though, as well. 159.5. Should see efficiency, should see a lot of points. And again, Belmont playing at that fast pace as they always do. It's really going to come down to whether their threes are going down. And at times, Furman's perimeter D was leaky last year. Doesn't mean it's going to be that way this year, but it is a concern I have for Furman guarding that three-point line. What do you think here in this one, Connor? Furman, Belmont.
Yeah, I think that's how, if it goes over, the threes drop and maybe some easy chance buckets, that where they get back. Because if not, maybe this is a little bit but this is, a line on the total for both these teams that just want to get up and down. Not great defensively. They want to shoot a ton of threes, are fast paced. Yeah, I like this Furman team. this one was just tricky. Belmont always a little bit better at home, and not a team that I love really laying points. I guess at home would be the spot with them. So this was a game I couldn't get involved with. I kind of see both ways here. Belmont at home, the short number, but I could see Furman get hot scoring and win this easily. So it was a pass.
All right, we're heading now to the Lee's Family Forum in Henderson, Nevada. That is where this game is going to be played.
Right down the street.
Court. Exactly. Arizona State and Santa Clara. We've got the Santa Clara Broncos, 5.5-point favorites, 151 the total. And if you're wondering why Arizona State's a dog to Santa Clara out of the West Coast Conference, well, first of all, Santa Clara is really good this year. Herb Sendek, former head coach, by the way, of Arizona State, long time ago, coached Santa Clara now for years. This is a very talented team. They can flat out score, and they showed it in their first game. I was impressed. The team they beat in their first game, St. Louis, the Billikens, that's a good team this year, and Santa Clara just took them apart with their offense. The defensive end of the basketball court, the Billikens had no answer for them. They can score on the perimeter. They can score inside. They've got length. There's a lot to like about Santa Clara, and there's basically the polar opposite to like right now about Arizona State. This is a team that coming into the year, I had worries about them, and the preseason was horrendous for Arizona State. They had that game against Duke. I know it was preseason, but they gave up like way over 100 points. It led to this legendary soundbite from Bobby Hurley, the head coach, saying, they're all the way up here, and for us, it's like, oh shit, about our basketball team right now. Pretty funny quote, and Arizona State pretty much validated Bobby Hurley's concerns about his team in the first game. The life and death to beat Idaho State out of the whack in their first game of the season at home. They were 18-point favorites. They didn't even sniff a point spread cover in that game. So I think it's a tough times right now for Arizona State. And one of my preseason objectives, I guess you could say, was to fade Arizona State at every opportunity. Well, I'm 1-0 so far. And I know there's going to be some people saying, wow, can we really, now 5.5 now? Santa Clara is a favorite. I'm going to take my chances laying the points with Santa. I just think right now Arizona State's got some real problems. You know what is scary about that Idaho State result? That they barely beat the Bengals of Idaho State at home. Idaho State was like 3 for 20 from three-point range, something like that, against Arizona State. And Arizona State was still life and death to win that basketball game. Idaho State couldn't make a three-point shot, and they were still hanging around in that game against Arizona State. Give me Santa Clara here. I'm going to dare Arizona State to show me they're any good. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I had a piece Idaho State. They were 4 of 28. 14% was Idaho State.
Somehow they covered still. Yeah.
Yeah. Arizona State, can they get it going? This team was awful on the glass, just horrible, one of the worst rebounding teams in the country last year. They have these two big names. Can they do anything? The bigger guy, 6'9", Quaintance. I mean, he had 2 points, 0 for 6 from the field, big 5-star recruit. And then Sanon, that kid, he had 11. That supposed to go to Arizona, goes to Arizona State. Maybe later on in the year, these big recruits will get going for him. But one thing, and maybe look on is their defense. But I don't know. Like some people, I think, are thinking this is Arizona State now with value with the 5.5, just with these two teams. And like I get that side, but to me, it'd be Santa Clara or nothing. It's on a neutral floor, and now it's 5.5. That's the only thing, because they are the better team here, flat out. They can shoot Tilly, Ball, Bryant. They can fill the bucket for sure. And I do want to back them. I think they'll be pretty good all year. Like this, wow, this is even at 6. Some spots, Havana. And if you look for that Arizona State, if they're going to keep being like that, the only place is Santa Clara. Like, I agree, especially if you got, 4.5.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I could only lay the points, even with the move towards Santa Clara. Yeah, I could only lay the points there with them as well. All right, here's an interesting one. George Mason and Marquette. We've got Marquette 12.5-point home favorites, 149 being the total in this game. Obviously, Marquette, we know under Shaka Smart, been a very good basketball team for the last few years. There's no question. That being said, there's a couple good pieces that that are no longer there from some of these Marquette teams, specifically from the team last year. Now they waxed Stony Brook 102-62 in their first game. I was impressed because when you think about it, there's no more Tyler Kolek, there's no more Isaac Adoro. There's a couple of those key pieces that were big time factors for this Marquette team from last year that are no longer there. And still, Cam Jones steps up with 32 points. He's basically become the leader now as far as scoring is concerned. And defensively, I mean, they put the clamps down on Stony Brook, who only shot 27% from three-point range. It was impressive. But boy, George Mason's going to be a much tougher challenge. I like the way what I'm seeing from George Mason and Kim English, as far as the head coach from George Mason moving on. We'll see how George Mason fares here, but 75-58 win in their first game of the season. George Mason, 15-point favorites. They covered in that game. They defend. That is what I like about George Mason. They're a pretty good defensive team. They're going to try to slow this game down a little bit, play in the half court just a little bit. I think it's one of those spots here where after Marquette had it so easy in the first game against Stony Brook, winning by 40, I think it's going to be a lot tougher here tonight against George Mason. I'm actually on the Patriots here. I took the points here in this spot with George Mason. I think we're going to end up seeing them be somewhat competitive here in this matchup. Again, not easy, but they're going to look to slow things down. They're a very solid defensive team. And even though, it's basically Tony Skinn, second year as the head coach, building on what Kim English was starting to build with this program before he took the Providence job. So I think it's a spot here where I like George Mason, and I like the way they can grind things out, play in the half court, maybe frustrate Marquette a little bit because they got everything they wanted offensively against Stony Brook. Not going to be quite that same level of ease scoring the basketball tonight for them against George Mason with the style of play that George Mason plays with. What do you think here, C-Mac? George Mason, Marquette.
Shout out to people in the chat. Big O, Big Mouth Rob, JP Easy.
Absolutely, yep.
Christian Rivas. Shout out to all you guys. Thanks for being here. Yeah, Marquette, just beat up on Stony Brook. Still shooting the three, like you mentioned. They still have Jones and Joplin. We'll see how good in the end, too, this Marquette defense is. That he was pretty good at home, a lot better, but sometimes could be spotty, and I didn't always love him. I thought, to me, I like the points for George Mason you talked about. They're in this game, it stays under, or near there, under this total, and they kind of make it a rock fight where they were so good. And I was on a bunch, of course, of their unders last year. I think they got to hang around. This was just one that I thought, this is the line was pretty sharp. Like I was looking at a little mistake here. This was 16.5, 17.5 with some of these. Like we've seen, there's a few today, but in the last couple of days, I like George Mason a lot more. So that reason why I couldn't take him. But I think they might hang around. Maybe early too. We'll see.
All right, we got one of the better games of the night here at 11 p.m. Eastern, also in Henderson, Nevada. This is the second game of the doubleheader at Lee's Family Forum. UCLA and New Mexico got the Bruins 4.5-point favorites on this neutral floor, 153 being the total here in this game. This should be fun, too. Obviously UCLA is expected to have a very good team again. Mick Cronin's team looked very good in their opener against Ryder the other night with a very solid win. In their first game. We'll see if they can build on that. By the way, if you want to watch on TV, this is CBS Sports Network has this game. Talk about pace wars. New Mexico last year, the number 2 team in the country tempo-wise, number 359 for UCLA. So you're talking about UCLA going to want to slow it down with Mick Cronin, and Richard Pitino is going to want to speed this thing up for New Mexico. Who's going to win out is going to end up being the question. The key for UCLA is containing and shutting down the great duo of Donovan Dent and Nelly Jr. Joseph. That's going to end up being the key. Those two are phenomenal scores for New Mexico. Great offensive punch from both of them. Donovan Dent, I think in particular, could be a Mountain West Player of the Year contender this year. That's how good of a player he is for New Mexico. Can UCLA keep him under wraps? Remember, this is a team that usually plays good defense year in and year out. If UCLA is able to do that, they're going to win and cover. Will they is the big question. I really think this is as talented a group as Richards had at New Mexico. If this game was at the pit, I'd probably like it even more rather than it being on a neutral court here. But I'm just still leaning to the Lobos a little bit. I mean, for UCLA, okay, fine, you blew out Ryder. You're taking a pretty big step up in class here in this particular game now, your second one facing New Mexico, especially with what they can throw at you in the backcourt, what they can throw at you really as far as offensive ability is concerned. Now, the concern I have for New Mexico, and I do, even though I'm on New Mexico, I do have concerns. Number one is, they didn't play great defensively against Nichols in their opener, but that was just, I think, one of those games where you chalk it up to Nichols plays fast, New Mexico plays fast. It was just a track meet up and down the court. I don't know if New Mexico was straining to play great defense with this game on deck, the bigger game against UCLA. It concerns me they didn't play very good defensively against Nicholls State. And if they play that way tonight, they're going to get bombed by UCLA. But I think maybe they were playing coy, maybe had one eye looking ahead to this particular game tonight. And another thing that concerns me is there's at times where New Mexico was totally outclassed when they played power conference competition. And I keep thinking back to the Clemson debacle in the NCAA tournament last year where they lost by 21, 77-56. To Clemson in the NCAA tournament when we thought they were ready to step up and show up against one of the better, power conference teams, tournament teams, and they weren't. So that does concern me as well. Believe me, there's reasons to like UCLA if anyone wants to lay the points, but personally, I took a shot here with New Mexico. I really love this backcourt, and hopefully they bring it because they're going to need to, and that's going to be the key for New Mexico. Backcourt thrives, they're going to be great. Backcourt struggles, they've got no chance. That's how important it is for Dent especially and Nelly Joseph to get going for them. What do you think here, Connor Mack? Very good game in the late night hours on the West Coast. UCLA, New Mexico.
Yeah, New Mexico. I mean, you hit it off the top. Want to go, score UCLA. Real slow in the 350s. Wants to play a half court style game. They have Johnson, some good players. Sebastian Mack, that's solid. And I think UCLA would be better. Kind of, a little bit down year for them. Last year, I think they were 17-16. So big win, beat up Ryder. But now it's just on the neutral floor, especially if you got New Mexico with the 6. I think you feel a lot better. It's gone down to 4.5, 4. And what do we get? Like if UCLA does that and dominates their defense, is great. This goes under, but if New Mexico's in it and can get up and down and make shots, I lean to the over. I think this game could to get over. So this might be a game that I'll be watching late to maybe bet live in it. But you talked about, Dent. They have a few of these guys. The defense didn't look good. I wanted to hit on. And Nickel, I mean, the defense has to be better. They had 37 threes, 15 or 37, 41% from Nichols. That's just not going to fly. They can't do that or they will lose. But, I think they have the weapons, with Dent, Washington, Joseph, the playmakers to be in this game.
Yeah, I do too. I'm taking a chance. Like I said, there's the Clemson game. I'm still scarred by it because that was one of my favorite plays of the first round last year. New Mexico against Clemson, and they just got drilled.
And Clemson had been so bad, and for years, and then they finally win a huge game, and I remember it.
I'm giving them a chance. It's a new season. I think they're a little more experienced, maybe a learning process from that last year. Like I say, UCLA too. Offensively, it comes and goes for them still. Do they have enough in them here, laying points on a neutral floor? All right, this will be the last game of our game-by-game breakdowns. Bradley and Washington State. I wanted to talk about this because it's actually a really good game late night. Washington State, 1.5-point favorites, 154.5 the total in this game. Pullman, this is on Washington State's home court. Bradley's really good. Let me just warn everybody, Bradley's really good this year. They probably could win the Missouri Valley. It wouldn't shot. In fact, they're the favorites. They're pretty staunch favorites to win the Missouri Valley. They are an excellent defensive team. Absolutely terrific at that end of the court. They guard. They protect the rim. They protect the paint. Their three-point defense is way above average. This is a very, very solid, sound, sturdy Bradley Braves team. And I think they've got what it takes here to not only hang with Washington State, I think they could win this game. And it's an important game for Washington State wants to win it too, of course, playing at home. But for Bradley, this is a chance to notch a very important belt, put a notch on their belt, if you will. They win this game, and a road win against a power conference team. I'm telling you, talk about building a resume that matters. That would certainly go a long way. And when you look at this Bradley team, there's definitely lots to like as far as the way they defend. They've got obviously nice balance too, because they've got 3 players that average 10 points or more per game coming into this season. Christian Davis, Darius Hannah, Duke Dean. Duke Dean's outstanding. You're going to have fun watching him. Brian Wardle's been a terrific coach for this team for years. Seems to always get the most out of them. And I love Kyle Smith. You know, I'm a big Washington State fan too, and he's done a great job here as well with Washington State. But I think when you look at these two teams coming into the year, as far as the defensive end of the court, I actually think Bradley's a better defensive team. I think Washington State's a little bit better offensively. I think Bradley does get a slight edge as far as defensive efficiency, and BartTorvik.com, the great stats site, agrees with me. He's got Bradley the higher-rated team as far as defensive efficiency is concerned. In a close game, I think getting that extra stop or two might be enough. I actually had Bradley a slight favorite. Pick 'em -1, 1.5 is kind of where I had Bradley. They're a slight road dog. I respect that they're giving Washington State, home court here, but I really like Bradley, and I think they know this is an opportunity, C-Mac. Put a win on the road on your resume against a power conference team, and that's going to go a long way to the tournament committee and the selection committee come March when they have the NCAA tournament selection taking place. So I'm going to take a shot here. Bradley to go on the road to Pullman and beat Wazoo tonight. What do you think here? Great matchup, Connor. Bradley, Washington State.
Yeah, last night, I mean, this Bradley team is pretty good. It's just kind of their first game of the year, too. It isn't kind of like a travel spot that's shitty. That's where I kind of looked at this, too. And their defense is really good and very solid. They'll be good all year long. One thing, though, this has flipped. Washington State was a dog last night, +1. Now it's moved to 1.5. If they play defense like they did against Portland State, they got problems. And this is a whole new team really here. The new coach, Riley got hired. Was that back in April or May? And it's a whole – their players basically gone from this team that went to the tournament last year with Washington State. They have the Cal Mees, the Washington transfer.
Washington, by the way. That's where he was.
All those guys. Yeah. And then he brought Price, Cowher. They brought 3 guys from Eastern Washington. It's like Eastern Washington went right over with them. So, and I think they will be able to score in this game. This was tough for me. This is a class because usually, I get both sides because I like backing Washington State, and people can look at that in Pullman.
For Bradley a little bit too, because Washington State.
Yeah, maybe. They looked good. SEMO's not very good in that first game. Yeah, this is a great watch. I just in the end I couldn't find value. I really like Bradley, and I don't want to fade Washington State. I kind of lean Wazoo, but I haven't seen enough. And after seeing them give 92 to Portland State, I'm not like going crazy here. But usually at Pullman, this is a spot where I'm going to be. But it might take some time for this Washington State team.
It's funny about Kyle Smith, who's now at Stanford, former Washington State coach, now at Stanford. I actually faded his new team this afternoon with Fullerton, although Fullerton is not having a good second half so far. So I'm now very much worried about Fullerton plus the points there at Stanford, which is going on as we speak.
There's the weird thing of that's tough with college basketball with the has from these teams. Like a team like Fullerton, you see it and they can play a great hat, a totally different team, can't hit a shot, sloppy turnovers, and they just get their ass kicked. Drives me nuts. You got to betting on these teams sometimes. Holy shit.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, as it should. It should drive you nuts. All right, here we go. This is the time of the show where we just go through whatever games, sides, or totals that we have bet. Some of our stronger looks, although save the best look for the best bet segment coming up after this. C-Mac, we'll start with you. Sides and totals. that, except for your best bet, because save that till the end. But other games that you really like, sides and totals that you bet that you like here on this Friday night slate.
Lines moved a little bit. I think and I took a piece. I think Old Miss, you can lay it with them in that game. One other one, I didn't bet this because it was too high. I think Texas come back home and just kills Houston Christian. You know what I mean? Their team total was 91.5.
And I'm not a Rodney Terry fan, but this is a good kill spot for Texas.
It's a good kill spot. Like, and this is 87 or something, like 91. They have it priced right. They could easily get 95, but sometimes in these games they just take it off and they score 86 or so. But I think they could cover that and have a big one. An over that I liked was South Florida Charleston. It's one of the overs that I like on this card, Babano. 154, 155. I think we get up and down, especially South Florida. Of course, everything that's going on. The coach, they were able to score against Florida. Charleston's going to be very similar to what Florida did and want to get up and down. So at that number, I thought it was a little light at 154 and at 155. If you could still get it.
Of course, Chris Mack there now at Charleston, and he doesn't mind going up and down the court. Yep.
No, not at all. Let me get a couple more here. I'm on, I'm not down the line. I don't know what's going to happen here with Doug Gottlieb, but I'm on Green Bay here, plus 3.5. I think they've brought enough, players back. So hopefully it doesn't change. They shot the ball well. The defense wasn't great against Oklahoma State, ran up and down. But I think, St. Thomas, an all right team, wants to slow it down. I also like the under in that game. And it's dropped a ton, so it's tough to give out. But Green Bay, plus 3.5 there. We already talked BC, VCU, the under there. That's about it.
There you go for Connor Mack. I'll throw out a couple. I like Northern Colorado, plus the points at Colorado. Colorado is, oddly enough, had a weird struggle at times with some of these little brother in-state teams. I think Northern Colorado, even though they're in the Big Sky, there's some good offensive talent there. And I agree with the move to the over as well. Northern Colorado especially, they're going to play fast. So the over and then Northern Colorado plus the points against Colorado, I think are worth a look. I know BYU beat the hell out of their first opponent, Central Arkansas, that first game. I think Riverside's a solid team. I really do. I think 21, they might hang inside that big number. I like Riverside a little bit there. The Highlanders.
Me too. I haven't bet it yet, but I like it too a little bit with Riverside there. Yeah, and Hall, we got to see. He's going to be out again. I think. I don't know why they would play him, but man,
no,
for BYU.
I'm going to take a shot to look. There was a lot of people that thought McNeese State was going to crush a very young, inexperienced, maybe not as good South Dakota State team the other day. But boy, they look like they were reading their press clippings, McNeese State, because they didn't play good basketball at all. Sloppy turnovers, not very smart, fouling too much. I mean, just all kinds of bad things. I'm going to take a shot going against South Dakota one more time. Now they're laying 9.5. They're getting some respect after the big win against McNeese State. Long Beach State's a good dog, I think. I think they're a team that's going to be able to compete there in that game. So I like Long Beach plus 9.5 against South Dakota State. I like the over. Everybody does, though. I mean, this total's moved like 10 points. Sacramento State, Fresno State's gone from playing snail pace to like light.
Yeah, they're going super fast. Yeah.
But I still think you can bet it. I actually still think that you could get it. You could bet it even with the huge move because I think it gets into the 160s. And Sacramento State doesn't mind getting up and down the court either. But I like that over. We've talked about the 2 late games that I'm involved with there. Talked about UMass. Let me see. I like St. Tom. I actually am against Connor a little bit with Green Bay. I actually like St. Thomas a little bit in that one. I mean, that was the Oklahoma State game. Now St. Thomas on the road. I think Green Bay. I have a question the spot more than anything. Murray State. I think I like too against Pitt. I know Pitt hammered Radford. Radford was horrible in that game. I'm still not ready to lay double digits with Pitt, and Murray State's going to be a lot tougher for them. I think they're a solid team than Radford was. And then there are a couple on the added board that I like. I'll mention, I think I might buy into Jerry McNamara a little bit, the Syracuse legend. I liked what I saw at Siena in their first game. He's the new head coach there. They played a pretty solid Brown team out of the Ivy League. Now they play Bryant. Bryant has been kind of an underachiever the last couple of years. They were expected to be great in their conference, and they don't play enough defense consistently. I think the over's in play in that game as well. Bryant always plays fast, always top 10 in pace in the country. But I think Siena plus the points is probably worth a look there as well, plus the over in that game. I like Queens in the over. Queens, Queens, North Carolina, I should say, against Western Carolina. I like the over in that game, and I like Queens as well in that one. And then if you want my big favorite, because at this time of year, you have these mismatch situations where you've got the power conference team at home laying big points against a small, very, very small school elsewhere. We've got East Texas A&M versus Texas A&M. Lay the 31 with Texas A&M. They're not going to be in a good mood either after losing at the buzzer against UCF in their first game earlier. That's still a very good Texas A&M team. They are going to be looking to, I think, annihilate somebody, and I think they got the right opponent to annihilate there. So, yeah, Texas A&M Aggies minus 31 against East Texas A&M. And I'm fading Villanova one more time, C-Mac. Until proven otherwise. Now, I'm not saying New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT, is all that good. They're not. But Villanova stinks right now. They're 0-2 against the spread already. This is their third game in 5 days. That's not exactly an advantageous spot, in my opinion. So I'm going to take NJIT plus 23. Dare Villanova to be good enough to cover. I'm telling you what, that hot seat's getting hotter on Kyle Neptune. Unless things start to turn a little bit with Villanova, I mean, this guy may not last after this season, and it's not been a good start for Villanova. So I went against them in the first 2 games. I'll go against them one more time here with NJIT plus the points against Villanova. So there you go.
All right. Get out of here.
All right. Good stuff, C-Mac. Great first show. Again, this is going to be the format. Nice 40, 45-minute show, to the point. Handful of marquee games, the games we like as well, in addition to that, and, of course, best bets to wrap up the show. Best bet, C-Mac, what do you like here for this Friday night?
Yeah, we're going to go with the total. I already hit up UMass earlier. Let's give one that I'm on. I got a little bit better number, but there's 146.5 here. Davidson, Bowling Green, under 146.5. Davidson slows this down. Better defense, and one of these teams will have a horrible shooting night. So under Davidson, Bowling Green.
There you go, Davidson, Bowling Green, under. I agree with that. I actually like the BG side a little bit. I'm not feeling it with the son of McKillop right now for Davidson.
Yeah,
they've not been all that spectacular, and I'm not ready to lay points with them on the road in what I think is going to be, you're right, a defensive battle. I didn't mind taking. I got 6.5 actually with Bowling Green here as a home underdog. So. Nice. I'm on that side in that game. BG plus the points. Under for Connor Mack with Davidson and Bowling Green. Best number right now is under 146.5 for Davidson, Bowling Green. My best bet here for this, it's actually a game I haven't talked about because I wanted to save it for a best bet. It's a game that is coming up in just a few moments. Samford's really good. I think they can go on the road and beat Cornell. I'm on Samford Bulldogs money line. Against Cornell. I like the over in that game as well, even though it's very high. You're going to have crazy pace in that game, but the total 167.5. I just think Samford shoot the ball well. They're a pretty solid team last year. I think they're even better this year, and I think Cornell takes a step back. They lost some key pieces from last year. I think Samford, the better team. We're only asking them to win this game, which I think they're capable of. So Samford money line, which is around minus 130. We're going to go with that for best bet here for this Friday college basketball slate. Great stuff. C-Mac, we'll be doing this show every Friday night. Any last words before we wrap it up? Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out.
Yeah, shout out to the chat. That is it. I got to get going. I got some bets to get in.
Good stuff. All right, for Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. This has been the College Basketball Hitting the Books show. We'll be here every Friday, and make sure you join us next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, for the next college football edition of Hitting the Books. Enjoy the games and good luck. And until next time, class dismissed.